What up, YouTube? It's part 2 of our series on mind control in the black community. And so we come up now, we're still in slavery, to the Willie Lynch papers. Okay? And oh, by the way, trauma-based mind control, like I said, is using fear and violence to force people to accept your ideologies and belief systems and to willingly serve you. Okay? If you try to run away, we catch you, we might crush your foot with a sledgehammer. Right? If you don't do what I say, you know, we'll rape your wife or sell your baby or whatever. You know, whatever. You know, take out the bullwhip, string you up in the barn, and whip you to within an inch of your life. And the scars on your back will remind you whose property you are. Trauma-based mind control. So we come now to the fabled Willie Lynch papers. Okay, they may or may not be real. People, say that they contest the authenticity, whatever. The point is that the Willie Lynch papers basically say, look, there was a group of slave owners that kept having problems with slaves trying to revolt and rebel. And they called in this guy, Willie Lynch. He said, well, look, the problem with you guys is your slaves are all united. What you guys have to do is divide them. So you take the light-skinned and dark-skinned Negroes, and you put the light-skinned guys in the house and the dark-skinned guys outside. So now the dark-skinned, now you've separated the two groups of people. So now the dark-skinned slaves now mistrust the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves you treat them a little better, so they sort of kind of get a little haughty. You kind of reward them for, telling you kind of what's going on out in the fields. So they end up feeling like they're a little better than the quote darkies outside. But everybody's still a slave. Nobody has their freedom. But within the reality matrix of slavery, you've now created two subgroups of people from the same people. They're the same group of people now, but now you've given one group of people a set of ideologies and another a conflicting set of ideologies, so the two groups now mistrust each other, and you're the one still in control of it all. And now you've what's called divided them in order to conquer. This is another form of mind control. Okay? They're engineering people's consciousness to accept their ideologies and belief systems. Hold on a second here. I'm making a video. So that's another form of mind control that they played on us, and that comes all the way down today. Well, back then, if the master had a son or a daughter, he was lighter skinned and usually treated better by the master. He usually was still considered a Negro or part of the slave population, but usually he was treated a little better. Sometimes they were even freed. So this created divisions among the slaves. Like I said, whether the Willie Lynch papers are real or not doesn't matter, because we still have this division coming down today. Do light skin, do men like, light skin versus dark skin, good hair versus bad hair, all these stupid, all these dumb, you talk white, all these, divisions that we still have within our people on down to 2009. I mean, it's an ingenious system of mind control. Way back then, it was going to reach hundreds of years into the future. Uncontested almost. So they did a job on this. Okay, they engineered our consciousness in order to force us to willingly serve them by accepting their ideologies and belief systems as being true. That's mind control at its finest. And it was done based on violence, fear, and this is where racism begins to come in, because after the slaves were, quote, freed, and that's a whole new discussion in itself. Black people started wanting to have equal rights, and we free people too. We're Americans too. We freaking built this country. Okay, this is where racism really comes in, because now I don't own you anymore, but I still want you to be subject to my ideologies and belief systems. Okay, I still want you to serve me as if you were a slave, even though I don't own you anymore. So now slavery turns from the economic system that it was in order to make money off of slaves. Once that system was not in place anymore, racism really took over. And what racism did was to attempt to keep the status quo in place without the institution of slavery. In other words, we want black people to stay in their place as slaves, even though slavery technically and legally doesn't exist anymore. And you have that system going all the way up to the Jim Crow laws and the Civil Rights Movement, and institutionalized racism within the banking system, the political systems, the quote educational systems, etc., etc. So after slavery was over with, racism came up, and now you still have trauma-based mind control, and it's racism is oppression by violence once again. For example, the KKK, stringing people up, beatings, rapes, all of the horrible stuff that was done to black people, and the trauma and the psychological trauma that was inflicted on black people to force us to continue to think of ourselves as less than, forcing us to go to the back of the back of the store, to not look into the eyes of a white man when you're walking by, all kind of stuff. For a white man to call you boy, this really where men call themselves men. What's up, man? Because black men, I think it was like the 1920s or 30s, were always being called boys, so they addressed each other as man. Okay, that's where that came from. These were all psychological ploys to psychologically reintroduce this this mind control setting of keeping you subjected and oppressed as black people. So this is what our ancestors had to deal with. And the educational system, I mean, people really don't realize it. What was it? I think it was when did the integration happen? 54? Excuse me, I don't really know, but that's a shame in itself. Brown versus, that's a shame. But it wasn't until very recently, 5 decades ago, that the school systems were integrated. I mean, that's unbelievable. So everything that was done up till now was based off of mind control. Now the educational system is the one of the best mind control systems they have in this country. Back in the 20s, the Rockefeller Institute, like I explained in my videos on the myth of the educated black man, the ruling elite got together and said, look, the American people are too strong, they have guns, they got too much money, we got to dumb them down in order for us to subjugate the American people so we can create our one world order. Well, black people were part of that. And the educational system, going back to when they integrated the schools, and Thurgood Marshall and the other guys he was working with did their examinations and took a black Barbie doll, a white Barbie doll, and no, not Barbie, but dolls, and asked black kids which ones were the prettiest. It was many of them chose the white doll. Okay, this is mind control at its finest. For a group of people to believe about themselves that they are less than on a subconscious level without anybody forcing it on them. Okay, the best slave to have is a man that thinks he's free, but he's not. Because he doesn't contest the reality matrix that's presented to him and the ideologies and beliefs that is presented to him. He willingly accepts them. So to make a long story short, the quote educational system is a big part of mind control for black people. 1482, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue. They still say Christopher Columbus discovered America. this is the dumbest thing in the world. Okay, but what it does is it presupposes that a white man is the person that proved that the earth was round and that proved that America was here. Okay, but logically we know that people were here in America before Christopher Columbus came along.